Spirit Days 2004, June 26th and 27th at West High School.
We've got the wonderful native foods that are here and traditional games, blanket toss, just fun, exciting things going on all day long. The drum is what keeps us all going. It is the heartbeat of our people, the heartbeat of our land.
Spirit Days is free and open to the public. We'll see you at West High School June 26th and 27th.
1, 2, 3, 4, let's go.
It's a fabulous show.
Alaska.
I heartbeat Alaska.
It's Heartbeat. Alaska.
Pull up a chair and enjoy the show.
Hear it from Sitka to Barrow. Gather around for Jeannie's show. It's the Aleut, the Indian, and the Eskimo. It's the Aleut, the Indian, and the Eskimo.
Welcome one, welcome all.
Hello everyone and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska, Native News and Information. I'm Jeannie Green. On Heartbeat Alaska, you'll see news that is news to you, news to our good people in rural Alaska, news that you won't see on television anywhere else, or most likely read about anywhere else. Today, we travel to rural Alaska for some of that great news that's opening up opportunities for the youth and changing lives. I'll be back in a moment.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Brown's Electric Lighting Gallery. Thank you, Brown's Electric, for your generous support of Heartbeat Alaska.
Heartbeat Alaska is also sponsored by the Norton Sound Economic Development Corporation, serving the fisheries of the Bering Strait region.
Heartbeat Alaska is also brought to you by Frontier Flying Service. Thank you, Frontier, for getting Heartbeat Alaska airborne.
This program is also brought to you by ASRC Energy Services, a subsidiary of Arctic Slope Regional Corporation.
Today, we travel to rural Alaska as usual. And as usual, we bring you news that you're not going to find anywhere else. Travel with me now to Huslia, Alaska, where the youth are learning fabulous opportunities and life-changing ways.
When we were in the old village, we were pretty much out in the woods, camps, trapping cabins, camps and everything. And I remember I tell story lots in the school to the students, and they asked me if we used to stay in camp, how long we stayed in camp. And I start telling them how many times we moved, and we moved 9 times and 12. 12 was the most.
Catherine Olin Atla doesn't just know the history of Huslia, she lived it. Catherine was born in one of the many camps the Athabascans used in this part of the interior.
That means like Christmas, start from New Year, then we moved back to our trapping cabin, then from there we move out into tent, we move back and then not move but go to village, stay there for a while and then go back and then go to spring camp, and then from spring camp we'll come back to the village, and then before fish camp we go out in the side streams to feed our dogs and kids for smaller fish, Then we moved back to the village, and then we moved to fish camp, and then we moved back, and then, moved to fish camp. From fish camp, we moved back to the village and moved out for more pikes and whitefish on the side stream to get more fish and to feed our family. Then we moved back to the village, and then this is in Cutoff, and moved back to the village, and in September we moved out to our trapping camp. So 12 times we used to move. Pretty much everybody stay out in the country, and trapping was good, fishing was good, nobody bothered fish, so it was just there all the time.
When the youth in the area wanted to attend school, they discovered a problem. There were no schools. Stephen Atla wrote a letter to the state of Alaska to ask them for one.
So Stephen, my husband's dad, they wrote a letter for him to Juneau to try to get school for us. We had no school, no post office, no church, just trading posts. 2, and then towards last there was just 1. And it took a long time to get answer because we have no postmaster. We used to get our mail through Koyukuk, which is 240 miles downriver, mouth of Koyukuk River. And so he finally got an answer, and then they asked what kind of location. Well, in Old Village, we had flood just about every spring, and it's just a low ground. And we have lake back here, it's called Long Lake. It's just like a river. It goes right behind the Old Village, just like river. And so the second answer he got, we couldn't get school at our location. And so my husband Stephen's cousin Jimmy Huntington, he was pretty much ahead of young people, like hunting and everything. And he asked his cousins and other young people if we could move. We have to get school. And so they talk about it during the winter, and then that next summer he decided to move.
It would take a tremendous amount of work to build a new village on a site that wouldn't flood every spring. But they still didn't have a school. Then they got an offer they couldn't refuse.
And in 1950, Bishop of Alaska, Bishop Gordon, Episcopal Church bishop, and some doctor, I think, was with him. They came here during the holidays, Christmas and New Year's holidays, and they had meeting with them, just few, and asked about school. And so he, at the time or even after, he told them, if you want to hit and got the logs, oh that's right, at the time, if you want to hit and just cut logs in the spring and build the house, and the Episcopal Church will furnish the material for roofing and windows and everything, just logs will have. So that was good. They went for it. So first thing in the spring of 1950, all the men went out and they cut logs. And they started the building right there. And then they finished the house, all finished with logs. And then in first boat, the Episcopal Church sent a material from Fairbanks to Neenan, come up here. And so as soon as the material came, they finished it. No pay. And it was hard time too to feed our kids. We had about 5 kids by that time, but they all went for school. So they built the school, and then they finish it once the material is here.
The vision of these first settlers paid off. Within 3 years, they not only had a post office, an airstrip, and a road. The state built them a new school. Still, other things we take for granted were slow to come to Huslia.
There was one phone in the village for a while. That was great. We all used to go there, and we don't know how to make phone call. I didn't anyway. Maybe other people did, but I didn't know how to use phone. I never seen electricity till I was 18. First electricity I saw. I never had a bed till I was 17. And finally somebody made a bed out of boards, lumber. And see, kids don't know that. They're sleeping on the bed all the time. And we used to just scrunch up to each other. And teenagers, we all have to sleep together, little kids. My little adopted sister slept with me till I got married, because we can't have extra beds. We don't have enough material and things like that. It was different.
Catherine remembers when almost all their food came from the land. But she's careful not to preach to the youth about the way things used to be.
But it's nowadays it's just really modern. Our poor kids don't know nothing about long ago, and I always say it's not their fault. You know, don't tell them that it used to be good. They think they're not good. You have to be on the young people's side.
The youth in the villages share the burden of trying to keep up with a modern world that is far away, a world that is simply not a part of their village.
They're caught in between two worlds. You know, the changes and the new ways. And the new ways have more stuff than we had, like even in their school. I think they're trying hard to keep up with the world.
It's easy for them to feel lost while groping for balance. That's why these youth are spending 3 days here.
So that's really important. If we're going to talk about community service, we're going to want to fit it to her. We're going to want to maybe work with a mentor for that community service. She's working with a mentor to do a particular service, a particular kind of community service. We want to.
The Tribal Youth Justice and Career Fair is the combination of two great ideas.
I'm here in Huslia because we are co-sponsoring a Youth Justice and Career Conference, and we have brought in youth from 7 different villages, and this is partly funded by a grant from Department of Justice, a Tribal Youth Program grant, and we combined forces with the Youth Opportunity Grant, and so we're covering kind of both careers and youth justice, youth courts.
Basic ones are speak from the heart. You know, talk about those things that really mean something to you.
Youth courts are appearing all over America as people realize that the juvenile justice system often fails to keep youth out of trouble. In a youth court, teenagers decide the consequences for other teenagers when a law is broken. When a youth stands before others his age and is held accountable for his actions, repeat offending drops dramatically. Putting these youth in front of their peers and holding them accountable for minor offenses is especially important here in the village. The isolation of communities like Huslia make law enforcement for non-serious offenses a low priority for the state. With the youth court in place, someone who commits a minor crime receives guidance and discipline before they commit a more serious offense. And the youth court system that's starting here takes the idea one step further. It incorporates the traditions of the Athabascan people of this area.
I think that youth justice and learning justice circles and this type of problem solving is extremely important. In rural Alaska, there is sort of a void for dealing with a lot of the lower end type justice or behavioral problem issues, and by developing youth courts and allowing the tribes, the villages to develop their own systems to address these problems. Youth are getting involved, helping to solve their own problems, being empowered by the ability to do that, providing them some training. And it's a simple, easy tool to supply the villages with the ability to start addressing juvenile problems. A lot that are going unaddressed right now, or that are not being addressed in an appropriate way, a culturally appropriate way.
The circle justice is one of the major styles that the tribal councils are choosing to use to work with their youth courts.
We have to find a way to put the two together, okay, and make it work so that we can live by it.
Justice circles are a very powerful way of working with any group at all, but youth in particular. And there's a healing that goes on with the justice circles. Circles in themselves are very powerful, and a lot of healing goes on because people have a chance to get down to what their feelings are about things. It's a way for youth to have peer. It's a way for youth to have peers working with them to decide on consequences, and also to bolster their self-esteem by doing culturally appropriate kinds of activities for those consequences. That's what youth courts basically do. It's youth figuring out what that offending youth should be doing.
The meeting in Huslia today will give the local youth and others in the 5 surrounding villages what they need to know to start a tribal youth court. Later, adults and tribal leaders will meet to learn how they can help the youth.
Pride itself, the council, has an ordinance that they design and figure out how.
Hi, Alaska!
So, what do you do when you get youth from 6 different villages together for 3 days? Well, I don't know, but it might sound like this.
But the meeting is about more than tribal youth courts. It's about the youth from these 6 villages spending precious time together. Though these villages are considered neighbors by Alaskan standards, they are separated by miles and miles of wilderness. These youth can't just hop in a car and visit a neighboring village.
Hard worker gets things done then.
You can talk like you aren't your neighbor.
Things are awkward at first, but soon new friendships are being forged and something important is being built.
Be on time.
That was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, we met a lot of people.
The self-esteem is probably one of the biggest issues well, all across America, but especially among youth. The low self-esteem leads to all kinds of behavior problems, aggressive behavior and substance abuse and these type of problems. And so if we can adjust justice from the aspect of self-esteem and create consequences for problem behavior that are supportive of building self-esteem, yet holding youth accountable for their behavior, I think that's a winning combination to start to turn situations around and help people grow and heal and, grow through problem behavior.
Well, self-esteem, we all need to work on self-esteem, youth or not. And self-esteem is something that when you have higher self-esteem, you are better off in life. You're happier, you're able to perform your job better, you're more of an attribute to your community, and self-esteem is just, it's a part of all of our lives. Low self-esteem leads to people making poor choices, to people ending up in the jails and the justice system. So that's why we're really targeting self-esteem as a very important tool for kids to be working on with themselves.
Youth in the villages are faced with tough questions. Will they stay in the village? Will they be able to find work here? What about college? What about a career?
Managing your own behavior is setting priorities, decision-making, self-discipline, procrastinating.
Adam Damenta is with the Tanana Chiefs Conference. For years, he's worked to help youth in the region face these difficult decisions.
To start thinking about careers now, sometimes some of the youth we run into haven't really put much thought into what they're doing out of high school or 5 years from now, 5 or 10 years, and they aren't really sure. And we had a panel, a group of people here who are in different careers, and the youth were able to ask them all kinds of different questions, and it was nice because the youth really had a lot of questions, and usually they're not in that opportunity where they could be comfortable and have a big group of youth and ask questions to certain people and be open and be free to ask anything. It's really good for them to start thinking about it now, just so they'll have a leg up on getting there, and they'll know people and different resources on how to get there, and they'll have meet people who have in careers that they might want to be in, and they could think, yeah, I know they did it, I could do it too. Build some confidence.
One group came by just to show how much youth can accomplish if they try.
Every year in the bush, 2 or 3 people from poor lives are going to wind up in a wheelchair for the rest of their lives.
Dragon Slayer program started from necessity. We just didn't have enough adult volunteers to handle our call load. Well, one accident for sure that comes into mind was when a young boy was walking home from the gym. I think it was in January, and he was still wearing his gym clothes. Of course, it was snowing a little bit. He was walking home, and he got taken or hit by a four-wheeler from behind. Didn't have their lights on. He wound up with 2 fractured femurs or thigh bones, and his hands were, about every bone in them were broken. He tried to stop the bike, of course, yeah, like a kid would. And he lay there in the snow, dressed like that, for about 45 minutes before our local health aides could find the equipment to safely move him. And the next morning we decided, or that night we decided that the fire department was going into EMS. And within a week we were doing it.
All right, here's our patient all strapped down.
And some high school boys decided they could do that work. So we trained them, and they could. They basically all graduated from high school and moved on, and the program became all girls. And this was about 9 years ago now. And since then it's been an all-girl program.
Okay, now we're going to check to see if the backboard works.
The Dragon Slayers demonstrate the skills required to put on all that gear quickly. They also showed how tricky it can be to find your way around in a smoke-filled burning building.
You never go into a room more than you can crawl in 5 seconds. So if something bad happens, you have 5 seconds to get out. That's about the time our turnouts will last. In this case, we're going to give these kids about 30, 45 seconds to get out of the room. We'll see how many make it.
They're youth volunteers. They're 13 through 18 years old. And they join the fire department usually in the 8th grade. And by the time they're in high school, they getting a little bit handy, and they start running calls with us. By the time they're out of the program, they're EMT 1s, basic rural firefighter 1, and pretty self-confident and pretty happy kids.
Helping people and saving their lives and
learning things. I practice poking an IV, but I don't get to do it because I'm not an EMT 2 yet.
It just makes me feel like I made a difference in something.
Three days of learning how to keep each other on the right path. 3 days of learning how much they can do with their lives. 3 days of making friends across the wilderness. 3 days of investing in the future of the villages. A lifetime to reap the rewards. Thank you so much, everyone in Huslia, Alaska. And thank you, Tenanot Chiefs, for making this program possible for all of Alaska. I'm Jeannie Green. Till next week on more Native news and information, God bless you. We'll see you then.
Spread yourself out. Good. Where are you going?
Keep your hand in.
See ya.
Join us for Spirit Days 2004, June 26th and 27th at West High School.
We've got the wonderful native foods that are here and traditional games, blanket toss, just fun, exciting things going on all day long. The drum is what keeps us all going. It is the heartbeat of our people, the heartbeat of our land.
Spirit Days is free and open to the public. We'll see you at West High School June 26th and 27th.